my parents' 40th anniversary dinner, my mother raised her glass and said, "To Aaron, the son who never gave up on his dreams." 83 people clapped. Then she looked at me and added, "And to Dana, who at least always had a steady little job." I smiled. I set down my fork, and I reached into my bag for the folder I'd been building for 3 years. Let me back up. My name is Dana Whitfield. I'm 34 years old, and for most of my life, I was the daughter who didn't need anything, which, in my family, was another way of saying the daughter who didn't get anything. My brother Aaron is 2 years older than me. He was the one with the light in him, everyone said. The charming one, the one with big plans. When we were kids, Aaron would announce he was going to be a professional musician, and my mother would cry with pride and buy him a guitar that cost more than our monthly grocery bill. When I made honor roll, she'd say, "Well, you've always been the studious type," in a voice that made it sound like a medical condition. I learned early. I learned that if I needed something, I earned it myself and I kept quiet about it. I got a part-time job at 15 bagging groceries at the Food Lion on Route 9. I bought my own school clothes. I paid for my own SAT prep with a stack of 20s I kept in a coffee can under my bed. Nobody noticed, and I told myself that was fine. I told myself a lot of things back then. Aaron went to college on my parents' dime. A private school, $41,000 a year, for a music business degree he never finished. He dropped out junior year too, in his words, pursue the sound. My parents refinanced the house to keep funding him. I found out years later they pulled $40,000 in equity out of their home. The same semester I was eating ramen in a state school dorm, I paid for, with loans I'm still finishing off today. I want to be precise about the numbers, because the numbers are the whole story. When Aaron's band fell apart, my father co-signed a loan for $18,000 so Aaron could buy recording equipment for a home studio. The studio lasted 4 months. Equipment got sold on Facebook Marketplace for $600, and my father quietly paid off the rest. When Aaron decided he was going to open a record store, in 2018, when record stores were closing everywhere, my mother gave him $30,000 from her retirement account. She called it seed money. The store, called Vinyl Soul, was open for 7 months. I have the dissolution paperwork. I have a lot of paperwork now. When Aaron got a DUI and needed a lawyer, that was $12,000. When he fell behind on rent because the record store failed, that was another $9,000. When he decided to become a real estate agent and needed the licensing course and a new wardrobe and a car appropriate for showing homes, that was, all told, just under $22,000. He sold one house to our cousin. I kept a mental tally for years, the way you do when something isn't fair but you can't prove it and you're not even sure you're allowed to be angry about it. And then 3 years ago, my father had a small stroke. He recovered mostly. But my mother, overwhelmed, asked me, not Aaron me, to help manage their finances while Dad got back on his feet. "You're the organized one," she said. It was the first time in my life being the organized one came with actual access. And that's when I saw all of it. Not a mental tally anymore. Statements, transfers, refinance documents, retirement withdrawals. Every dollar dated and signed, laid out in online banking going back 11 years. $203,000. That's what my parents had spent bailing out my brother's dreams over 11 years. $203,000. Do you know what they'd spent on me in that same time? I'll tell you exactly. $400 for a plane ticket home when my grandmother died, and even that came with a text from my mother that said, "We'll cover it this once." I didn't say anything, not right away. I want to be honest about that, because I think people expect these stories to have a moment where the wronged person explodes. I didn't explode. I sat in my car in their driveway, and I felt something go very cold and very quiet inside me, and I made a decision. I was going to keep helping them. I was going to do it well, and I was going to document everything. For 3 years, I was the perfect daughter. I organized their bills. I set up their online banking. I caught 2 fraudulent charges and a subscription they'd been double paying for 6 years. I drove my father to physical therapy every Tuesday. And every time I touched their accounts, I saved a copy. Because here's the thing I learned watching my brother. In my family, the truth didn't matter unless it was undeniable. Undeniable meant on paper. Undeniable meant numbers. Aaron, meanwhile, had a new dream. He was going to be a wellness entrepreneur. He discovered some supplement multi-level marketing company, and he needed, you can probably guess, money. He hit my parents up for a small startup investment. $15,000. My mother, whose retirement account I was now watching shrink in real time, said yes. I found out because I saw the transfer. And I found something else, too. My mother had taken out a small home equity line of credit to make it. At 66 years old, recovering from her husband's stroke, she was going back into debt to fund her son's vitamin pyramid scheme. That was the moment the folder became a plan. The anniversary was coming up. 40 years. My mother had been planning it for months. A real event, a banquet hall, 80-plus guests, a slideshow, the whole thing. And she'd asked Aaron to give a speech. Of course she had. She'd asked me to handle the logistics, which meant I booked the hall, arranged the catering, coordinated the RSVPs, and made the slideshow. Aaron was going to give the speech. I was going to make sure the projector worked. I said yes to all of it. And I built my folder, not out of spite, or, all right, not only out of spite. I built it because I had realized something. My mother wasn't cruel. My father wasn't either. They genuinely did not see it. They had told themselves a story so many times, Aaron needs help, Dana is fine, that the $200,000 gap between those 2 sentences had become invisible to them. It was wallpaper. It was just the shape of the family. I didn't want revenge. I wanted them to see it. Once, undeniably. The night of the anniversary, the hall looked beautiful. I made sure of that. My parents came in to applause. Aaron showed up 20 minutes late in a suit I recognized, the real estate wardrobe suit, 4 years old now, with a woman none of us had met and a speech he clearly hadn't rehearsed. Dinner was served. My slideshow played. And then my mother stood up to make her toast, and she said the thing about Aaron who never gave up on his dreams, and everyone clapped, and then she looked at me and said the thing about my steady little job. And I smiled and I stood up and I said, "Actually, I'd love to add something. Do you mind?" My mother beamed. She thought I was going to be sweet. My father reached for his water glass. Aaron was checking his phone. 40 years is a long time, I said to the room. And Mom's right, Aaron has always chased his dreams. I wanted to take a minute to honor exactly how much this family has invested in those dreams, because I think it deserves to be seen. I opened the folder. In 2013, $41,000 for college tuition. In 2014, $40,000 in home equity refinanced. In 2015, $18,000 for recording equipment that sold for $600. I kept my voice warm, conversational, like I was reading a lovely tribute. $30,000 in 2018 from Mom's retirement account for the record store. $12,000 for a lawyer. $9,000 in back rent. $22,000 for a real estate career that sold exactly one house. Hi, Cousin Rick, thanks for that one. The room had gone very quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear the ice settling in the glasses. Aaron had put his phone down. "Dana, what are you doing?" "I'm giving a toast," I said. "In total, over 11 years, Mom and Dad have given Aaron $203,000. I looked at my mother. Her face had gone the color of the tablecloth. And this year, to fund the supplement company, Mom opened a home equity line of credit. At 66, 6 months after Dad's stroke. I know because I manage their accounts now. I've watched it happen in real time. "That's private," my father said, but his voice was thin. "It is," I agreed, and I never planned to say a word of it. But Mom just stood up in front of 83 people and called what I have a steady little job. And I decided the room should have the full picture. I closed the folder. Because in 11 years, do you know what this family has spent on me? $400 for a plane ticket when Grandma died, with a note reminding me it was just this once. Nobody clapped. Nobody moved. And then my Aunt Carol, my mother's younger sister, who had sat quietly at family gatherings my whole life, stood up. "I need to say something," Carol said, "because I've watched this for 30 years and I stayed quiet, and I'm ashamed of that." She looked at my mother. "Linda, you did this to Dana the exact same way Mom did it to me. You know you did. I was the one who paid for your wedding dress. Did you ever know that? I was 24 and I gave you my savings and everyone acted like it fell from the sky. I've been the Dana of this family my whole life, and I watched you turn your own daughter into one, and I said nothing, and I'm done saying nothing." The banquet hall was silent enough to hear the kitchen doors swing. My mother was crying now, but it wasn't the performance crying I'd seen 100 times when Aaron needed something. It was something else. It was the face of a person seeing a photograph of themselves they didn't know had been taken. Here's the part people don't expect. I didn't storm out. I sat back down. I let the silence do its work because the silence was the whole point. For 11 years, the truth had been a feeling I couldn't prove. Now it was a number, spoken out loud, in a room full of witnesses. Couldn't be wallpaper anymore. The fallout took months, not minutes. Real life isn't a movie. Aaron didn't apologize. Men like Aaron rarely do. He told relatives I was jealous and unstable, the same words golden children always reach for. But it didn't land the way it used to, because 83 people had watched me read the bank statements in a calm, steady voice, and calm, steady people are hard to call unstable. My father called me a week later. He was quiet for a long time on the phone. And he said, "I did the math again after you left. You were right, to the dollar." Another long pause. "I don't know how to fix 30 years, Dana, but I closed the equity line, and I told your mother the supplement money was the last of it. There won't be any more." My mother took longer, but 3 months after the anniversary, she asked to meet me for coffee, alone. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check, not for $200,000, nothing that clean. It was for $11,000, which she said was what she could manage, toward my student loans. "It doesn't make it even," she said. "I know that. I've been telling myself a story about you for so long that I forgot to actually look at you. I looked at you that night. I didn't like what I saw about myself. I took the check, not because it fixed anything, it didn't. I took it because it was the first thing my mother had ever given me without a note reminding me it was just this once. Aaron's supplement company folded within the year, like all the others. Last I heard, he was living with a friend and had a new dream about crypto. My parents didn't fund it. That's the real ending, not that Aaron changed, because he didn't. The ending is that the money stopped, and the story my family told itself finally cracked, and my aunt and I have coffee every month now, 2 women who spent their lives being the one who was fine. Sometimes justice isn't a courtroom. Sometimes it's just the truth, said out loud, in front of the right people, so it can never be unsaid again. I've been the daughter who didn't need anything for 34 years. Turns out what I needed was for someone to finally do the math.